You're out of practice. It's been a while, mate.
Howdy, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave. Hello, hello.
And welcome to today's Mastermind, where our topic is it's our plans for you when it comes to Magento 2. So happy days. Dave, I have been a bit of a stranger of late. So first off, thank you today for...
Yeah, we've had I was away for a week and you were away for a week and we just sort of fell out the loop. Then you went on holiday again and yeah, you sort of August was a tough one to nail us both down. But yes, kids are back to school, Christmas is around the corner, all back to normal.
Yeah, and I got a little notification on how many sleeps it is to the next holiday. I'm not apologising, I've not really taken much in the way of holidays in the past couple of years. And I took 2 in as many weeks, it felt like. So, hey-ho. Anyway, Dave, let's get on to the topic of Magento 2. And you have to excuse me because I'm just going to get the live chat open here as well. And background as well.
Yeah, no worries at all. So for anyone who didn't know, who wasn't aware, it was an interesting sort of situation last week. This started a couple of weeks ago. There was a lot of fear-mongering by some certain e-commerce news outlets online and other and quite big general news outlets online, stating that Magento 1 support was ending in November 2018. Now, we knew that to not be true. That was totally against the latest information that we had. But still, there was a lot of panic. I saw a few forum questions come in. I had a few emails, saw a lot of buzz on social. And then, thankfully, Magento actually released an official announcement on their site stating that Magento 1 support would indeed be continuing until at least June 2020. So that sort of gave us, that was what we already assumed it would be. They said they would give us 18 months notice, which it pretty much is from right now. Takes us to June 2020. So that is good news. You know, there's no other way of looking at that. As far as, you know, I'm looking at this, that's 2 more Christmases on a platform which works. And if you're using it for your business, I'm pretty sure it works. Might not be perfect, but it's the one, you know, Matt, you can talk about this much more than I can, but basically about changing your software can be one of the most troublesome aspects for any e-commerce business.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. And again, that's just going back to my history working with multi-channel software tools. It can be quite a challenge to get everything right and try and get all the bases covered. And of course, that's a consideration for us, which we'll cover in a few minutes' time. But I think that Dave hit the nail on the head here, just like reassurance as far as Magento 1X goes, is that it's there, it works great. In short, I'm sure there's things which you would like to add. Hey, who wouldn't? Let's be fair here. But on a serious point of view, is that it just works, and that's the key thing to keep in the back of your mind. Is that it just works, and to be officially told that it's June 2018. Dave's put it the best way, 2 Christmases, so there's no real need to panic at all. So with that in mind, we would like to kind of share with you what we're planning to do with Magento 2, and also what we envisage is the simplest route for you as a business owner for when it comes to migrating across to Magento 2 in the longer term. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. We are talking the longer term. I'm sure some of you have probably already jumped, may jump soon, or may jump later, as the case may be. And that's the nice thing. You can do this in your own time. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to now go away and we're going to focus upon Magento 2, and we're not going to worry about the migration from 1 to 2. We're just going to focus upon Magento 2. Get you up to speed. Okay, well, in fact, to be honest, what we'll probably end up doing is that we'll do the basic stuff like we've done. Many of you know that's what we've done before over on UnderstandingE, and we'll get the basics into place for you. We will probably also do like an added crash course. So for those of you which are coming from Magento 1.9, I've kind of already got your head around most things. You just want to know what the changes are, right? How does this differ from Magento 1.9 to Magento 2? What are the things which I need to know about as a business owner? And we'll do a little crash course when it comes to that side. That would be quite logical for us to do that. Now, I know some of you may be worried or wondering, well, Matt, Dave, what about our existing site? What should we do with that? And I think Dave, we and Dave were chatting about this a couple of days ago, is that we were thinking about this, and I think Dave's just hit the nail on the head. And the best approach would be is to work on your new Magento 2 site in separate hosting. Okay, well, probably within the same account, but on a temporary domain name. Okay, so call it magento2.yourdomainname.com. Okay, and get that store up and running. Okay, get everything in and make sure you're happy with the way it works, that you get your products in there, you get your flows to the way which it looks, the way which it feels, any additional extensions, which your plugins which you want to add into the site, and get everything bedded in. And then our plan for you is actually the simplest possible, which is that your current site is that you shelve and you put into a separate subdomain. So you could call it previous Magento, previous site, yourdomainname.com. So all of your inventory is still there. All of your previous orders are also there as well, so that you can keep them for historic records, accounting, etc., etc. All your data is still there. But as far as your customers are concerned, is that you then they're seeing the brand new site, okay? And that keeps things really, really easy. Because that just keeps a record of everything which you've done up until, say, today, okay? They're available for you. Of course, we're going to show you how to secure it down so just your staff can see it. And then you can then launch the new site itself with all the bells and whistles which you've been and added. And of course, you may migrate like customer accounts, for example, you might want to add across, for example. But then for all intents and purposes, you're starting afresh. And because you're starting afresh, that just makes things a lot easier. And I think that's probably the simplest way of dealing with what could be an awkward or expensive migration. It's just completely mitigated because you're going old site, you're withdrawing it and releasing new site. And of course, you may bring one or two things over which you would like, maybe customer accounts, for example, across to the new site. And of course, you've still got the old data available to you. And of course, you've got a brand new site based upon Magento 2, which you've worked on for a week or so, or maybe a little bit longer to get up to speed to your own requirements. Does that make sense, Dave?
Absolutely. And I think this is something which we had spoken about last week when we caught up in person. We basically, as with everything with UnderstandingE, we rewind it back to what would we do, and when tasked with this migration problem, because I've looked at this migration problem countless times now, and I've reached out to different companies, I've reached out to different developers and whatever else to see if I could, get them to basically to put something together for you who have UnderstandingE sort of Magento 1 systems who now want to go to Magento 2. And it was just expensive. I couldn't, there was quotes of like $5,000, 2,500 for this migration. And when it all boiled down to it, I was like, well, why do we need the migration? Why do we need to take all that heavy data from an old system and get a brand new shiny system and bog it down with a load of data which really isn't going to add any value if you can still access the old data separately? There is still some questions, or not really questions, but there's some concerns that we'd have to get the process right of the switch over, turning one off, turning one on. But you would have to do that with a standard migration anyway. So this is, for us, what we think is what we would do. This would be the most, and it's one of those, we spoke about this as well last week. You wouldn't even necessarily need to keep a Magento 1 system alive. You could literally export all the data into spreadsheets if that's more your sort of thing, and just have, a big spreadsheet in Drive, in Dropbox, locally, doesn't matter, and which has all the data that you may require.
Yeah, that's definitely a curious one, because in theory, you could export your data, your order data, for example, out to a Google spreadsheet, just using the standard export tools from Magento itself. Get that data exported and then import it into a Google spreadsheet, for example. And for all intents and purposes, it would stay there forever for free. Done, you know, really straightforward. And we'll look at more specific use case examples when we get to that stage. But our approach right now is just going to be straightforward. So we're going to focus on a fresh look at Magento 2, kind of exactly what we did for Magento 1.9 or 1.7. This is what we started with. And go through the basics. Like we said, we'll do a crash course for those of you coming from Magento 1.9 to 2.2, I think we're on right now. And we'll also look at doing the switch. Okay, it's just basically going old site into the new site. Okay, but of course, you release the new site whenever you're ready. Okay? And of course, we'll get you up to speed with Magento 2, especially if you come from a previous version. And as far as maintaining the previous site, well, it should be relatively inexpensive because there's no real traffic going to the site except for your internal usage. And of course, there are options for exporting the data out and then putting it into free storage. Dropbox could potentially be one for the raw files. Google spreadsheets are really kind of like the obvious place for it to go because it's free and it's very easy to get access to as well. And of course, you can have multi-user access as well with sharing too. Jay says, I've just seen it come up in the chat here. Jay says, for M2 ePro users, the linkage between Magento, eBay, category mapping, etc., might be an issue. Absolutely. I'm sure there's going to be things as we go through this where there could be definitely a challenge where some things which you will need to do in Magento 2 will have to be done manually. There's gonna be instances as you go through, okay? Especially if you're using certain parts of certain plugins like category mapping, for example, which require extra work, okay? So yeah, that's our plan for it, to literally separate the two systems and just trying to simplify things as much as possible. And it saves dragging, I think Dave were chatting, it just saves dragging this huge, great big weight behind you as you go to a new system. So instead of like dragging this through and then trying to combine it in, which gets very time intensive and also potentially very expensive too, is that we still do feel that starting afresh is by far the simplest approach for you to follow. No, we are using, just perhaps like Jay's question there highlights the point, we are doing this with a point of view that this will fit most users. Okay, most people use Magento 1.9 with M2 ePro, for example. That's going to suit them absolutely fine. However, I'm sure there are some of you which have gone off and done custom stuff and have edge cases which we just won't be able to account for. And we'll do our best to get you to a high enough level so you know what's going on in Magento 2 and the things which you need to look out for in such a migration. Okay, or taking some data and putting it into the new system, but we can only do so much. Okay, so yeah, Jay, good question on there. Jim also says, yes, I had to upgrade to PHP 7. Absolutely, we've just had to do the same as well. It was very easy for a standard site because normally it was an older version. And also our database, by the way, the UE site will be down for about 30 minutes this afternoon while we go from Magento 5.5 whatever to Magento 5.6 to bring it up to speed for that. Good questions, by the way. And by the way, that's one of the nice things of having hosting, or even shared hosting with simple servers. They're kind of like looking after it for us as well. We did also, going slightly off topic, and Tink and Stink, I will get to your question in just a moment, Maria, which is, I did notice on the simple server site that they're offering Magento shared SSD hosting for 18 quid again. So inexpensive to get you going, kind of thing, really straightforward. Maria says, has Adobe said anything about developing Magento? Dave, you're probably the best person to answer that.
So from what we know so far, there's been very little said. All I can tell you is we suspected at the time that Adobe would integrate Magento into their, I want to call it Creators Suite or something like that. They have a suite of products, which is almost going to be like a SaaS package. That we always thought Adobe would go SaaS route, like they've done recently with, or not too recently with Photoshop. It makes sense. That's if I was Adobe, I would do exactly the same. So that's what we assume that they would do. And I've had friends of friends, or acquaintances of acquaintances in the industry tell me, who apparently have links to Adobe, saying that is exactly what they're going to do. There's nothing concrete out there. It's all rumors and stuff. So I can't tell you 100%, but I imagine that's the route they're going to go down. Quickly on that sort of note as well, I want to talk about Amazon. This was another consideration me and Matt had last week. For anyone who will remember, the OG UnderstandingE users will remember that we put off the Amazon tutorials for so long because we kept getting promised that this new update was just around the corner. It was a month away, a month away, a month away. Yes, James, Creative Cloud. That's exactly what it is. Thank you. I believe they're going to bundle it into Creative Cloud. But yeah, so we kept postponing Amazon because we're waiting for this new integration version through M2E Pro. And it was coming soon, 1 month away. It's been pushed back a month, blah, blah, blah. We ended up waiting almost a year before we did that. And in hindsight, we wouldn't have waited. So because we now have the ability of hindsight, and we remember that earlier this year, before the Adobe acquisition went through, Magento announced that they had been working on a native integration into Amazon, and it would work across all Amazon sites and eventually include FBA. So with that said, we're not going to hang around. There was, I believe, the date for announcing this integration was supposed to be Q3 2018, so it could be any time over the next few weeks, months. But we're not going to wait. So if that means that we do a specific course on integrating Amazon using M2E Pro for Magento 2, then we will do that. And then if a better solution comes out with the native integration, then we will cover that as well. We're not waiting anymore. That was, like I said,
a lesson learned.
Yeah, it was very much like we trusted maybe a little bit too much on vaporware. And like I said, we're not making that mistake anymore. So that's where we're at with what we know about Adobe and the current state of Magento. Unfortunately, not much.
Yeah, just going on a slight tangent here, because we've been talking about Creative Cloud in the background, which is Adobe's Service Manager. I actually use a Creative Cloud for Adobe Photoshop. I think I pay about £8 per month for access to it. And if you consider the price, I don't even, it's all I knew that it was just prohibitively expensive to buy the software outright. I remember, when was it, Photoshop 6 or something I bought, and it was like £600, £545, I think, something like that, some crazy amount of money. And that was, I mean, ages and ages ago. So what Adobe are is, in the scheme of things, expensive for very, very good tools. So I don't know how that's going to work with Magento, but my own personal experience with Creative Cloud is that it's very simple to use. And also it was pretty darn inexpensive as well, having the ability to use Photoshop, because let's face it, no other image editor application comes anywhere near it by a country mile. I tried using other tools and I just couldn't cope with them. So it is inexpensive, and hopefully some of that inexpensiveness carries across to Magento. But I don't know exactly what they're going to be doing with that. We may I float the idea, see a rehash of Magento Go, hopefully not so poorly implemented, because it had potential. It just wasn't that great. And again, if the Adobe has, say, Shopify, for example, as a good reference point of how to make things work well. Okay, so there's lots of cool stuff going on out there, but right now we haven't heard anything from Adobe how they intend to continue. And as somebody put it in the comments just a moment ago, Where was it? Hobbybase said, I'm not even sure even if we'll go to M2 by 2020, as there may well be a better option. We will be exploring other options. WordPress and WooCommerce and WP Lister is definitely on the cards. I want to stress that's definitely a step backwards in functionality for the vast majority of you. I would strongly say that, but that's an option and a route which we will be investigating as well. Obviously after Magento 2. Yeah, something else may spring up in the background.
There's one that's sort of in my periphery right now, and it's actually one that Chris Astley mentioned to me. It's called Shopware. I'm not overly familiar with it, but apparently that's making some waves. I believe it's a German based company, but yeah, they apparently power some big websites. We've got the Discovery Channel, L'Oreal, Euronics, Ben Sherman. So again, I don't know much about that. Chris Astley was going to be looking into it, and he said he'd catch up with me once he'd had a chance to have a look. But again, they have a community edition, they have a pro edition, an enterprise edition. So that's on my periphery of like attention right now, as that could be an interesting one to look into. Like I said, I'm coming at this just sharing with you what's on my radar. I have no idea if it's any good. I have no idea on the pricing. I have no idea on very much about it, other than I've heard it mentioned a couple of times. And it's one of those things which could potentially be a replacement for your Magento system in a few years' time. So we are aware of what's going on. Shopify, I'm just not convinced by it. I know it's like the leading thing at the minute, but I just don't think it, for the majority of true e-commerce multi-channel businesses, it just doesn't work. The fundamentals of multi-channel are broken. So yeah, interesting. WooCommerce and WordPress, WP Lister definitely works, definitely does in multi-channel. It is a step back in terms of functionality, but if you're doing sort of simple products, you wouldn't really run into many problems. So yeah, there's definite options out there. I know Big Commerce and stuff are doing interesting things as well. So who knows? But yeah, we're not Magento fanboys. We're not paid by Magento, so it's at the time when we started, it was just the best platform to use for multi-channel e-commerce. And if that changes, then we will gladly change with it.
Absolutely. So, and of course, there's other ones like OpenCart, for example, and other options kicking and around. It really does kind of depend on the multi-channel integration.
Yeah.
Because there was, what was it, OpenBay, which was available for OpenCart, which was okay. And I'm just doing inverted okay. It didn't have the kind of the advanced features which we saw in Magento and the flexibility which we saw with M2E Pro. So that is very much a curiosity to have a look at some of these other tools in more details. But yeah, we're hypothesizing here. So let's move on. Just quick move on. Jay says, I'm keeping an eye on WooCommerce tools as overall cost seems to be less. I'm not sure how comparable the functionality is. Jay, it's pretty good, okay? And again, in loose commas, pretty good if you just want basic, straightforward stuff, okay? And that, of course, it does include integrations to eBay and Amazon as well. I think they're like $100 for the year, maybe $130 for the year each, something like that. Not terribly expensive, runs on even less dedicated hosting, or less, it is much less intensive than Magento by a country mile on there. But it is then, on the other hand, it's like, and its biggest negative and its biggest positive is that it's all based upon WordPress. So on one hand, it's great that it's WordPress. You can do so much with it. And the other annoyance that it is based upon WordPress, so you're kind of typecast into doing things in a certain way. So sorry, that's just the developer in me coming out there a little bit. So it's not bad. It's definitely, if you have a smaller business, you should definitely consider it, because A, it doesn't cost very much. B, we always see, and still see, WordPress and WP Lister and WooCommerce as a stepping stone towards Magento. We do class very much Magento as being the best tool out there, and it has been for a very long time. They just kind of rocked the boat too much with this stupid Magento 2 update, which was basically a beta product. Well, some might even argue an alpha product for being released. But we are two big versions in now, and things have started to calm down and stabilize, which is kind of what me and Dave have always said for a long period of time here. It's like, wait, and we're just with Magento saying that 2020 is going to be the end, for security updates at least, to Magento 1.9x, then you still have plenty of time to wait. Keep that in the back of your mind. There's no great, urgent, desperate need to go anywhere right now. It's very much quite relaxed, chill, have a sip of coffee, relax. You've got plenty of time. But if we're in June 2020, then things would be obviously a little bit more serious. Right, so let's got a look on there. Hobbybase says, I still see OS commerce sites which are actually actively being run. OS commerce, I used OS commerce. It was fun to work with, it was fun. Absolutely, there's a whole collection of other tools out there as well.
I mean, I think the point that James is making there is a good one. It's because obviously community Magento 1 is so open source, and it literally, just because the official security updates are no longer being managed, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a GitHub somewhere with patches and things run by third-party devs. That's the thing with Magento. It could continue on way past June 2020 and be a very viable system, and be purely managed by devs, independent developers who love the platform. So who knows?
Indeed. By the way, I was paying £9.98 for Photoshop with Lightroom CC as well. I think it was less than that, actually. Scroll back up. Yeah, £9.98. But I have had it for months and months upon months. So whatever free trials and stuff I would have flagged right at the beginning is that I'm going back paying full price. So 120 quid a year for Photoshop and Lightroom, which I never use. Well, apparently 20 gigs of cloud storage as well, which I ever. Hey ho! Oh, CubeCart, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. Again, some good names there. Sorry, I know somebody who was ran a website design business in London, and you wouldn't believe the amount of sites which he produced using CubeCart. And there was another PHP system as well, and he sold millions of pounds worth of sites based upon that technology, and it's great. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as Herb is always concerned, that they were all really happy with them because it all worked exactly the way which they wanted it to work. So anyway, let's drag ourselves back onto topic. Apologies, I was going off on a slight tangent there. It is time for us to wrap up, but we just want to quickly reiterate what we've just been uncovered. We're going to go off. We're not going to wait for anybody else like Magento to release their Amazon integration, because right now, as far as we're concerned, that's vaporware. It doesn't exist and is an unknown entity. So we're just going to carry on. Okay. M2E Pro should still be considered the #1 number choice for Magento as far as eBay and Amazon go, even probably after Magento released their Amazon integration, because of M2E Pro's experience with Amazon. Okay. And also the links for Amazon as well. Don't forget they knew about Amazon. You may or may not
they were
know,
working with Australia.
Yeah, their links with Australia before that went live. So there's definitely a working relationship there with Amazon as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. So anyway, bring us back onto the topic. We're going to go off. We're going to go and do some Magento 2 stuff. We are going to completely and utterly ignore the issue of migration. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we genuinely feel that the easiest way of moving forwards to move from Magento 1.9 whatever to Magento 2.2 or whatever on that side is to basically switch sites. You, instead of trying to worry about this big migration and going splat and trying to just mold all this crap into, sorry, that's like data rubbish, into well, not any such crap, trying to mold all this stuff into a new layout. Okay, so you're trying to get like this round peg and trying to stick it in a triangular hole. Okay, it's just not going to work. So our approach is going to be, well, hey, do a switch. Okay, we'll retire the site which you've got, and then we'll bring in the new site. And of course, you only do that, you only do the switch once you're happy that everything's up and working and it's going to work the way which you expect. Now, obviously, there'll be a little bit of downtime while that happens, DNS update and things like that. But the idea is that you launch this new site and go, ta-da! When you're ready in your own time. Because the other key point for us to summarize, June 2020 is the only time when you should be really concerned. Well, a couple of months before that. But on a serious point, June 2020, long time away, don't stress. Magento 1.9 is still really good, by far. Don't stress. We're off to do some Magento 2 stuff. I hope that helps.
I guess as a heads up as well, don't expect to see anything until at least January, February, because we are not going to be releasing anything which is going to give you any help in fiddling with your business whilst Christmas is happening.
Yeah, could we just clarify that just for one moment? It has been mine and Dave's specific advice that you do not screw up or play with anything now. So September to Christmas, maybe until the end of January. Okay. And the reason why we're suggesting that, and that's why we're going to keep some stuff back, is because it is completely the wrong time of year for 99.9% of you to be doing stuff with your site. Okay, you should really be hammering in, focusing down on what you need to be doing to gain sales and getting revenue into your business from now, literally September. The schools have gone back. H will be in Christmas buying mode very shortly. I'm actually surprised. Dave, I remember having this conversation last year, and she just bought something for Christmas. She hasn't mentioned that yet, but I'm sure it won't be long. Hey ho. So September to January is not the best month for making any big changes, okay, or even worrying about that stuff. So do look out for Magento 2 stuff, but just be aware, even if it was ready today, we would hold it back until late this year, stroke into the new year, just because I know, Dave knows, and to be honest, you probably will know yourself as well, trying to do stuff which requires your full attention at potentially more the busiest time of the year is not the best idea. So we've always said that. So yeah, look out for some updates from us in the next couple of months.
We might give you some teasers and stuff along the way, but there's no don't expect anything groundbreaking, any Magento 2 master guides on getting started until 2019, just because chances are we'll have them ready within a month or two, but we're going to have to sit on them because you lot can't be trusted to not go and start messing around in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, we mean that.
Because I know I'd be the same. I'd want to be getting involved and messing around with stuff.
Absolutely. Last question is from Maria. Are you looking at Ultimo for Magento 2, or are there new themes available? I was and still am a very big fan of Ultimo. If the one thing for you to keep in the back of your mind is that theme was, say, potentially purchased only the once, and they've been providing support and updates since you bought it, that's pretty good going. So I already know that their Ultimo is available for Magento 2.2, okay? And that would be the most obvious route for us to go. Now, of course, there's a plethora of themes out there and available. And we will look at some others, but it would have to be a very, very strong case for us to look at another or different theme for Magento. And the reason for that is just because Ultimo works really well, has a absolute boatload, like cruise liner load of options, and they're a proven entity. So
support is really, really good.
Yeah. So Maria, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, that's basically saying, man, I've used Ultimo for the time. I'm a little bit bored of it now. From you would be in your position too of thinking that as well. And you obviously might have looked on ThemeForest and seen a collection of other themes as well. I know, I look myself, but we have to ground ourselves as business users and go, actually, it works quite well. They have worked really well for the last N years. I don't see it, we go on track record there. Like I said, it's got a cruise liner full of options. So really, really good question. So yeah, Maria, yeah, I would be happy with Ultimo. And again, it's the familiarity is another key point. So like I said, it would have to be a very, very compelling argument for us to move away from Ultimo, because it's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. On that note, it is time for us to wrap up. Glad to see you again, and thank you today for looking after us while
all good.
And yeah, onwards and upwards. So for myself, Matt,
and for me, Dave. I forgot my name.
Afternoon, morning, evening.
Yeah, I'm still Dave. Yeah, okay.
Yes, Dave. Not Maria yet.
Not Maria yet. It's not Friday. Yes, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know the drill.
Cheerios.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.